This is Seahawks Stories, 50th Season Edition, presented by Emerald City Athletics.
Seahawks Stories 50th Season Edition is presented by Emerald City Athletics, and we are going to have some fun today. This is not the usual studio setup, but I can't get Marcus Trufant in the usual studio setup. I can, however, find him on the golf course. That's where we are today. I know that there's going to be a lot of stories that are being shared, so I'm glad that you're going to start the stories with me.
All right. Let's talk about it. I guess all of those pleasant stories, all the good stories.
All the good stories.
The family-friendly stories that we can talk about on air, right? Yes.
That actually is the bigger distinction. It's
Yes.
the family-friendly stories. Well, depending on which side of this game you were on, the 11 false starts created by the 12s against the Giants, that is not a family-friendly story if you were on the Giants side of things.
Right. That game, so loud, so crazy, just was one of those games, I think, that really put the 12s on the map, if I'm not mistaken, right, as far as just being on this national level and finding a way to really affect the game, right?
What was your level of surprise on that sound? Because you played in plenty of stadiums.
Right.
Like, you've heard the fans before. What was so different about that?
I think what was so different there was just how it changed the flow of the game, right? Especially being on defense and getting there on third downs and the penalties and stuff like that, and then making it like third and forevers, man. It really helps the defense. And we just kind of leaned into it. Of course, we're trying to pump the crowd up and doing all of this crazy stuff, but it really changed the outcome of the game. They really it was like kind of like we had an extra player out there. We had a 12th man out there on the field. It wasn't like we was cheating or nothing like that because the 12s had our back, but I think it really made a difference, and that was crazy. I think that was really the first time around the league that something like that had taken place.
Did you hear from other guys around the league saying, what'd you guys do? Like, what happened in Seattle?
Not so much like I was getting text messages or something like that. I was talking to guys, but I think it just was one of those things that everybody knew now, that when you come to Seattle, there's a different type of feel. There's a different type of energy coming from these fans. It's not that we got a bunch of drunk, crazy fans, even though they probably are kind of oiled up a little bit, but
It's game day.
I think it's just the love for the team, and that's how it's been since the beginning. And that's really the crazy thing that people really don't understand. It started back in the Kingdome, and I'd never been to a Kingdome game, and me being a local guy, that was kind of different from me, but I truly started to understand after that game what being a Seahawk fan really meant.
Well, and it was so different because Husky Stadium for a couple of years, and then you move into, at the time it was Quest, right? And that they kept telling us that design was going to keep the noise inside.
Right.
But you really had no idea.
Yeah, no. And an outdoor stadium, too.
Right.
So I guess when you talk about the architecture and all of this cool stuff, it does help, but I think it's just one of those things, man. When you put both of those together and you put the love of the sport and the love for the team and just how we kind of are here in the Northwest, we love hard on our teams, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah. So in case you're not following along at home, 16 penalties by the Giants that day, 11 false starts. And we're not talking about 11 false start penalties throughout the game. There were some that were back to back to back. It was crazy. At that point, you don't even have to play defense, do you? Like, because what are you possibly going to drop on like a 3rd and 20? You're just like, whatever.
Right.
I mean, Eli was quarterbacking, so.
Eli was quarterbacking, and that was the young Eli. And if I remember correctly, I think the game was fairly close. It was a good game. And me being a younger player at that time, going against a guy like Plexico Burress, guys that really got big names and doing big things and stuff like that, it helped a lot. And it gives the defense just the energy and just the whole thing to go out there and really try to make it happen. Man, you're playing on a different level. It's like you're playing with an extra battery pack in your back or something like that.
Did you guys have to rethink defensive signs, communication, anything like that after that game? Because you knew you weren't going to be able to hear each other?
Absolutely.
Was
Absolutely.
it Lofa calling? Lofa was calling the defense,
Lofa,
right?
I believe, was the quarterback of the defense that time. These games tend to run together over the years, Jen. You put me on the spot. But, yeah. That's how it's always been on defense at home in Seattle, though. We always had to come with the hand, the hand signals and make sure that we stood right next to each other, especially in the secondary, right? I used to be so tired, of course, from chasing these deep balls and doing all that kind of stuff. So there'd be times I wouldn't even come back to the huddle, but you always had to make sure that you're on the same page. It's all about communication. Everybody knows that on defense.
Do you remember Jeremy Shockey celebrating into the camera while Jay Feely is missing a kick? Do you remember him celebrating before the game was over?
Not so much, but I remember Jeremy Shockey got lit up by somebody. I'm trying to remember who it was back there, but Jeremy Shockey with the long hair. Yep. I'm not surprised. So he celebrated too early. I mean, is that what the whole I guess situation was? And he thought
yes
that the kick was made, and it was.
He didn't realize what was going on behind him. Feely missed 3 kicks that game.
That's what happens to you when things are a little too loud and things are a little too crazy. But the thing I remember about that day, man, it was just those type of games that, especially on the defensive side, that you don't forget, man. It's back and forth. It's kind of a nasty game, but the crowd and all the penalties is like it's something that's kind of once in a lifetime type of game. So I just remember all the crazy stuff that was happening, man. And like I said, things start to run together after a while, but that game, especially on the defensive side, was one of those games you never forget.
Yeah, you still can't hear yourself think at Lumen Field, which is why this NFL season you can feel every play, every hit, every moment with Sony 1000 XM5 noise-canceling headphones, the official headphones of the Seattle Seahawks. With premium noise cancellation, you are in the zone. No distractions, just pure football. Whether you're in your living room or on the go, you'll never miss a beat with Sony headphones. Is there anything about that game that gets overlooked or forgotten? Or maybe what it meant in the course of the season. That was late in the year.
Okay.
At that point, I mean, you guys were already on a roll. You were heading towards a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else about that game that gets overlooked?
I don't so much think it's about that individual game. I think it's about that entire season, right? And you talk about that Super Bowl run and the things that happened, and of course, we had the injuries and things, and we powered through, and the next man up type of thing. It kind of really played into everything that we're doing. But you talk about games like that, that's what it took for us to get to the Super Bowl, right? The 12th man jumped in, and you had guys that hadn't played a lot. Of course, they stepped up, and they made things happen. And, I think about guys like DJ Hackett and stuff like that didn't have the big names, but they showed up big for us for that season. And the 12th man, of course, showed up for that game, but that's just exactly how that season was. And then we got this guy behind us, the man, the myth, the legend. Right. Yeah, but it was just one of those things, man. It was that entire season, and that game was one of those things that kind of just topped it off right there.
Lastly, since we are telling stories from the 50 seasons of Seahawks football, what is the story that you tell most often about your career and your time in Seattle?
Oh, man. So much I could go to, man. It always starts with me being a guy from Tacoma, Washington. And you got draft day. I got my bags packed. I'm having a draft party, man. I'm going to have to go across the country and do some interviews and different stuff like that. The Minnesota Vikings missed their pick, I believe, pick number 7 or 8 or something like that. So a bunch of teams start picking quick, fast, and then the Seahawks pick a young, silly kid from Washington State, man, and that's where the story starts. And that's really what it's about for me, being to play at home, of course, bringing my parents with me, bringing my brothers with me, and just doing everything here at home, man, and being able to be a part of the team's first Super Bowl run. I know this team has done a lot of great things, but being a part of course, of that first one is a really big deal to me. Even though we didn't get that one, we didn't win it, but it was still a big deal to me.
It did, and it put Seattle, and like you said, that season put the 12s on the map. Without them, we wouldn't be here because you're part of the 12s. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.